Hi everyone, it is my real joy and pleasure to introduce Magenta Pixie to you again. We had an interview a couple of months ago, a conversation about water that I found absolutely riveting because there's so much coming up astrologically now in the next few years about water. So that was so fascinating. I'll put the link for that video below so you can check it out. So we had a very rich conversation. So for those of you, I think most of you will know Magenta for sure, but for those of you who are new to Magenta, she lives in the south of England. She's a channel for higher dimensional divine intelligence known as the white-winged collective consciousness of nine. The transmissions she receives from the nine have reached thousands of people worldwide via the extensive video collection on her YouTube channel. She's worked with people from all over the world as an intuitive consultant and ascension consciousness coach. She's the author of 6 best-selling books, her latest one being the Diamond Codex and the Quartz Key, which I'm dying to read. Her first book, Masters of the Matrix, is a Book Authority winner in the categories Best Spirituality Books of All Time and Best Consciousness Books of All Time. So magentapixie.com. So welcome, Magenta. Now, I am so looking forward to this because basically we are going through such huge energies at the moment. I've asked Magenta to ask the nine about 3 areas. Firstly, as some of you know, I was very excited when in Magenta's Equinox video, which I thought was brilliant, the 9 talked about March 21st being day 0 of New Earth. And that meaning, as I understand it, we're going to dig into this now, that the frequency of New Earth was already established here. And they also said that by 2026, that New Earth would be established globally. So that's one area of questioning. So I haven't heard the answers from Magenta yet. She's going to be doing most of the talking in this video because I've posed the questions and Magenta's going to be translating the nine's answers. The other areas are really around this incredibly powerful eclipse season that we're in, with the total solar eclipse that we have today. It's actually a hybrid eclipse, and also the very powerful lunar eclipse that we've got coming up on May the 5th. But together, they are extraordinarily strong for our evolution. So those are the areas I sort of questioned Magenta to ask of the nine. So really it's going to be over to you, Magenta, and I'm on tenterhooks to hear what the nine have said.
Oh, wow, Pam, thank you. It's lovely to be talking to you again. It seems like only yesterday when we last spoke. I can't believe it was 2 months. Just wanted to quickly say something about our last chat and about water. Connecting with you and having that discussion really affected me profoundly, and bringing forward the nine's information regarding water and the mermaid energy. And well, right up till now, really, I was really immersed in that whole subject and the whole mermaid thing. Anyone on my Telegram group will confirm that, because I've been posting so many things about mermaids. I even went on to the streaming services that I have and typed in mermaid, and I've been watching every drama series and every film I could get my hands on with mermaids. And I bought a silver mermaid pendant to wear around my neck. And there was a definite opening of awareness of water for me for the first time in this profound way in my life. I mean, I've always loved water, but not in the way that I have since you and I spoke. And it made me realize just how important it is. And I even did 2 more videos because I'd taken notes and I had notes left over. So I just wanted to tell you that, because I've watched some fantastic mermaid films and series on TV. So I've stayed with that mermaid energy ever since we spoke.
And this is Salacia. In astrological terms, this is the dwarf planet Salacia. Also, increasingly, and Veda Austin, her wonderful work, has referred to this, we're really starting to see water as living consciousness. And we are principally made up of water. We ingest water, we urinate it out. So we are in the flow of this living consciousness that water provides. And therefore, I think the quality of that water, the structure of the water, will become more and more important for us going forward, and how we emotionally affect the water in every moment. And that means we affect the cells and all the water in the cells of our body. So that shows us the power of our emotional set point in affecting the water. I think this
Yes.
is going to be huge as an area, absolutely massive.
Definitely, and it connected me with Marina Jacobi. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her work, but
Mm.
I had said in one of the follow-up chats to the notes that I took for the chat with you regarding my feeling, and I know you've said this yourself because I heard you say it in one of your recent videos, that, well, you said about pollution will not take years and years to be dealt with, that the seas will be cleaned in some way. What I was picking up, that there was some kind of organism, possibly a living animal or something, that would actually eat pollution and waste, and that it would adapt and that would be its food. And so many people wrote to me to say Marina Jacobi said that.
Oh,
So I ended
wow.
up talking to her. We ended up doing a chat about a different subject, but we did touch on the water. So it is big and it's all connected. But
Wow.
yeah, I'll go to the question you asked. So what you were asking was about the nine was saying about March 21st. I think that I went back to that particular channeling where they said that. So what they were saying is the day of the new birthing, as you move into the second triad of the Trinity spiral, that's what they call this time period that we are in, our evolution in 3 sections of 3 years.
Yes.
So what they're saying to me is that time itself, in its truest form from their perspective, looks like a geometric structure. That geometric structure is within, lying dormant within the DNA of humanity. And when the activation takes place and the crystalline energy activates within the DNA of the awake and aware individuals, the geometry within the DNA is the blueprint or template of time itself. So although we are experiencing the understanding of linear time in this dimension and non-linear time in higher dimensions, we're actually creating that as well through our awareness, because we're at one with the true reality, which is non-linear time. So that's what they were explaining, what this Trinity spiral, the second triad of the Trinity spiral, which they also call the vertical trifurcation, which is, if you will, a triple helix, if you were looking at it within a DNA form. It's a triple helix, but it's a cosmic geometry that is the blueprint for time. So I need to work with the nine more to understand this, because it's sort of deep, but I'll go with what they
Because
said.
linear time is going to be dissolved more and more, I think, as we move further into the future. It's going to dissolve, you know, we're going to have much less precision. Time is going to slip, reality is going to slip. That's the message of Saturn in Pisces. So we're in that, starting in.
Yes, I would say that linear time dissolves from our perception, doesn't dissolve entirely, it's still there. But we, if we are moving with that higher octave, our perception is that it's dissolving. And that's happening now. That's actually happening right now. We're in that second triad. And I will say that, as I said to you before when we spoke, this is the nines model. It isn't the model for reality. It is the nines model for reality that they use to teach me, and I'm able to explain reality through the model they use. All different channels and individuals that have their own connection will have their own model. And so some people can say, oh, well, this channel said this and someone else said something completely different. That's because it's a different model to explain reality. So this is just one of many models, and the one that the nine show me. So what they were saying is, the day of the new birthing, as you move into the second triad of the Trinity spiral, the vertical trifurcation, if you will, takes place upon March 21st, 2023, as day one of the new world, indeed day one of new earth, if you will, within geological and experiential reality terms. So yes, you can also explain that as day zero, with day one being March 22nd. Depends which way you look at it. There's that sort of cutoff point between the culmination of the first 3 years and the moving into the second 3 years. This is simply just an explanation for our minds to be able to understand this non-linear presentation in a linear way. It isn't to be taken completely literally, as in, oh, it's dead on 3 years, and on this particular day at this time, this ends and this begins. This is a template for us to be able to interpret this geometry that presents as non-linear time. I did actually ask them what this trinity spiral or vertical trifurcation is, to give me more information. I can tell you what they said if you like, although that's going somewhat off topic. But if you want me to, I can tell you what they said, because it is kind of related, and it's very interesting, because what they're saying here is we, the collective, humanity, but certainly awake and aware, activated humanity, are not just creating this, we are it. We are completely unified and at one with it. From their perspective, humanity holds the keys to creation of this cosmic galactic reality. We are all intertwined with it, and we don't just experience time in a linear way here in the third dimension. We experience space here in a linear term, as in spatial, as in we're here on Earth, and out there are all these planets. And that again is a physical model for us to interpret reality itself, because we're all in the same place. All those planets are Earth in different evolutionary spaces and different time zones. So we are learning all of this, and it's not that we're learning it, we're remembering it. We already know this because we are it, and that crystalline awakening within in the DNA, this triple spiral, a trinity spiral, trinity helix, that is our memory coming back. That's what happens to our DNA when the memory comes back. So I did ask them, what is this trinity spiral or vertical trifurcation? Why vertical? They said this is a geometric structure representing time. It is the natural knowing of non-linear time, creational time, or crystalline time that is phase locked or anchored into the DNA of the star-seeded one or celestially aligned individual. When the memories and knowing are activated within these star-seeded souls en masse at critical mass level, this creates the activation of this non-linear crystalline time, known to the scientific ones amongst you, or aware and awake physicists, as simultaneous time. The Trinity spiral presents 3 sections of time as blueprints to be played out in linear time within your physical reality. This is a vertical spiral, if you will, with 3 sections of time within, as spirals move in sections of 9. So you would have 3 sections of 3 that will manifest as 3 years in each section of the spiral as a blueprint, with you currently existing within your now time nexus point. That means like now, at the beginning of the second section of time, which is March 21st or March 22nd, however you perceive that. These 3-year phases are close approximations to the most predominant timeline. But, and as you said, this is what the 9 are saying, you said this, they are living consciousness. This geometry of time is a living consciousness, and thus are in flux. So, if you will, naught can be set in stone from your perspective, because it's a living being. The Trinity spiral within our DNA, that is the God source element, that is the oneness, the unity, the higher intelligence, the plasma. So it's a living thing. So you can't look at it like it's a calendar, because it's alive. I hope that kind of explains. And what they actually said about March 21st specifically, the date you know as March 21st is the first day of the new world, the new spiral, the new cycle of time, within the threefold vertical trifurcation, day one of the new world, leaving behind the old world at the point of March 21st, 2020. So that was the first one, 3 years. The first phase of the vertical trifurcations, that's the first phase of this trinity, specific for vertical ascension, which means direct ascension, Stargate ascension, accelerated ascension without having to go around the houses to ascend, which is a whole other subject. That ended on March 20th, 2020. That will end, sorry, on March 20th, 2023, to go into the second phase of the vertical trifurcation, thus begins on March 21st, 2023. So you can actually see this as March 20th, the end of the last section.
Yep.
March 21st as the 0 point in between the two, and
Yep.
March 22nd as the beginning. You can see it that way. That's just as accurate.
And because of course, March 21st was the Aries new moon that came just a few hours after the equinox. And March 22nd, as I've mentioned in another video, was what Jeffrey Hopp, who channels Adamus Saint-Germain, had been calling Heaven's Cross, that this portal to our greater divinity and multidimensionality was now opening on March 22nd. And Saint-Germain had been very specific about that. And then Amanda Lawrence, wonderful gifted seer, came in and also said March 22nd is when the veil in our consciousness starts to dissolve. And that was literally, I was literally seeing Saturn in Pisces. You know, Saturn, the veil, Pisces dissolves. And so she was also saying, from her point of view, not knowing what Jeffrey had said, that this portal, this gateway to our greater divinity, greater multidimensionality, is now accessible. And it's going to take time for each of us on our own ascension path, journey, etc., to access that. For some, it could take days, others months, others years. But nevertheless, because we've been able to raise our consciousness sufficiently, that is now available for us to move through.
Yes, that's all completely 100% accurate. And I've spoken to Amanda about this, and she is amazing. She is so keyed into the energy. Yeah, she's fantastic. And the other person who I haven't heard of, interesting that he has said this is a cross, a sacred cross, did you say?
Heaven's Cross. Adamus Saint-Germain, who is channeled for many, many years. He lives in America, Jeffrey Hopp. He runs something called the Crimson Circle. And last September 2022, Adamus Saint-Germain started to talk about March 22nd, 23, absolutely that day being what he called Heaven's Cross, which was this portal, this opening to our human divinity in a much greater way.
Right. And this is what I'm saying about different models. Heaven's Cross would be that second phase of the spiral, which is what I'm seeing. But absolutely, you can see that as a cross, because the spirals, when they form their ultimate geometry, there isn't just one going vertically. There's one going vertically upwards, one vertically downwards. Then there are horizontal spirals going sideways. And so that in itself is a cross. That's the formation. So these are geometries of time, and we use these to interpret what these non-physical energies mean. So that cross would absolutely fit.
So Magenta, the 9 are really seeing that we are already in the second phase of our accelerated evolution.
We are already in the second phase within this particular spiral, which is 3 sections of 3, which is one spiral of 9. There are multiple spirals, all part of this culmination point that they call the grand cycle, the ending of the grand cycle and the beginning of the next grand cycle. So this is all leading up to that point. That's absolutely where we are. So in this particular very pivotal time, that's where we are, which is why you have multiple different consciousnesses vying for creation of the way that new reality will look, because the energies are so conducive to manifestation through cohesive thought. So you can have one group of individuals who want the new reality to look like this, because it's what they want, and that might be, let's say, to do with control and everything that goes with that. And then you have another group of individuals who have a vision of the complete opposite, which is freedom and liberty. So both of these consciousnesses are vying for the creation of what that looks like. Now, if a group holds critical mass cohesive thought, they will create that. So what you have here is one group creating one thing and another group creating something else. And at the moment, we're seeing manifestations of both of these things. However, if something is in alignment with source frequency, it holds longevity, and it holds an infinite structure within it, meaning it sustains, it's sustainable. And that's the name of the game when it comes to this reality that we're experiencing right now. What we're creating is sustainability on all the levels. If you're creating something that's not in alignment with that source frequency, you have to work much harder to focus it cohesively, because it's the opposite of sustainable. It's finite. And because we're going higher and higher and higher with this frequency, it's harder and harder and harder to manifest something that's within a frequency of control. So that particular part of the manifestation is finite, and it's not holding. It's almost like...
Yeah, this is so exciting, Magenta, because you're literally speaking the astrology and you don't know it. That's,
No.
so you're literally speaking the astrology, because this is all about Pluto in moving out of Capricorn over the next 2 years. Capricorn is top-down structure, governments, institutions, corporations that have held power over us in a very strong, rules and regulations, do what you say for your safety, etc. Rules and regulations control ethos, whereas where the energy and the life force and the astrological energy is going is into Aquarius, which is all about community, collaboration, etc. So, if I'm just looking at astrologically, what you're saying is spot on, absolutely spot on. This is New Earth. The energy is moving towards New Earth, which is going to be community based.
That's it. That's it. And it's almost like these two lines, say they're both timelines. This is the sort of control one, and this is the freedom one. And they're chugging along together equally. But the more that this galactic frequency takes us higher and higher, it's like this one for freedom is like zooming off like this. And this one's like, they can't get there. So this one's shooting off into manifestation. That's just one sort of simplified way of explaining.
Fabulous.
So what they said was the end of the second phase of this vertical trifurcation, taken from the point of March 21st, 2023, is set for 3 years, hence is predicted, therefore, to end on March 20th, 2026. So that's that 3-year phase. The beginning of the third phase of the vertical trifurcation is thus predicted to begin on March 21st, 2026. However, despite this cycle being calculated precisely, and this is where they lose me because I don't know what they mean, through the 13th Baktun of the Mayan calendrical counting system, it is open to fluctuations within time due to timeline bleed-throughs and shifts within other simultaneous cycles. Now, what we're doing is going into, in that third phase, like quantum time. So it's like it's harder to see this as a timeline or a section of time, because you've got quantum time, and that's evident for many aware individuals now, because it's the energy now and it's within the crystalline activation within the DNA. But in the 2026, 3 years from then, that will be even more evident.
And because by then we'll be less, pinned down and precise with linear time. It'll be everything. Our reality will be so much more malleable.
Oh, absolutely. For us, for the awakened individuals who are in the awareness of that, those who are not, those who aren't able to perceive or let's say decode what's coming into their minds, they will need lots of support and lots of help, because from their perspective, it's like they're going to be going crazy. And
Yeah.
that's already started. It's like they're going mad. It's like weird things are happening and they can't place it. You cannot place this energy and try to decode it into a third dimensional linear box because it simply doesn't fit. So those individuals will have a hard time. For those who are going with this energy, it's blissful. It's absolutely blissful. But for those who are not, it's very challenging and very, very difficult. And this again is this whole sort of thing where people are down here struggling to go with this energy and others that are shooting off, which is why vertical ascension is also known as accelerated ascension, stargate ascension. You are literally going through a stargate and a series of quantum stargates. You are going through a stargate system. We're doing that now, and that's what the eclipses are. They're part of the stargate system, and seeing these eclipses and the way that it affects the planets is our way of calculating what's occurring with this energetic blueprint. And the astrologers, they've been around since the very beginning of time, prior to this epoch, way before in Atlantis, because the astrologers are the ones that have the ability to calculate the movements of the celestial bodies. So they present to us how to decode this blueprint that we're all experiencing. It's amazing, really. The last thing they said about that particular section of channeling is your planetary end times is the ending, the culmination point of the grand cycle and the beginning of the new grand cycle. This encompasses many cycles in between, within and simultaneous to the grand cycle. So it's like all these little cycles are beginning and ending, but then there's a bigger one and a bigger one and a bigger one. And we're in the big one right now. And even that is part of an even bigger movement, which I haven't even looked at any of that.
No, I mean, it's fractal, isn't it? But, you know, it's an infinity of universes.
Yes.
I think. You know, it's like Russian dolls, a whole infinity out to the cosmos. So that's why it's so hard for us to get our heads around. But this is just immensely exciting because it's reinforcing stuff about, you know, the Mayan calendar and the upcoming golden age and, you know, different spiritual disciplines in a way, all converging at this time, which is just
exactly.
We're right in the crucible of it right now.
That's 100% it. Yes, they did go on to talk about the grand cycle, which I can discuss if you want, but they did say about March 21st how that will always be your beginning birthing point for the new world, the new section of time within cycles within the grand cycle. Your March 21st, 2022 also began and birthed the beginning of a new world cycle. So we had this last year, but that was one of the smaller cycles. Yeah. This is the third spiral of 9 spirals moving within, shall we say, into more diagonal directions rather than vertical. So there was a different cycle, a different formation for ascension back in 2022, which was also significant. But this one in 2023 is like a higher octave, a more quantum geometry. They then said that the true calendrical counting system is a geometric language of light, or a cosmic clock, or a cosmic map. So it's a clock, a map, and its language that lives within you when you are silicon or crystalline activated. This is phase locked into your very DNA. It is indeed the mathematics, or the nuts and bolts, if you will, of time matrix navigational creation. So we are creating this through our own crystalline activation, as I've said, and the awareness of this is creating our crystalline activation. We're at one with it. Both are working together.
It's a feedback loop. The feedback loop with the cosmos.
100%, yes.
But what did you say? It's a cosmic map of light?
They said a language of light. So it's a language. It's a light language. Yep. It's a cosmic clock, and it's a map. So it's directional, it's time, and it's a language. It's all three of those things. That's what the crystalline energetic is within the DNA that any awake and aware individual right now has got going on in their DNA right now. And that is what's happening in the galactic reality and in the cosmos and in the celestial worlds. It's
It's
all going on
immensely
in the DNA.
exciting because it really shows the power of us as co-creators in this infinite flux of love and also light, which is becoming higher and higher with the photonic energy as well. You know, we are just in this flow of creation. And if we can see
Yes,
ourselves like that, rather than just being tiny victims being abused by X, Y, and Z, you know, we will just step into much greater empowerment. I mean, it's hugely
absolutely.
exciting.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, looking at that side of it, being abused by X, Y, and Z is part of the journey.
Yes.
And having awareness of that is important because
Yep.
that adds to our awakening.
We're not
As
going to do
long
that
as,
again.
yeah, as long as we become aware and we examine and we work with our emotions, with the things that we find out, but we take that simultaneously to the greater picture. The issue is when we get stuck in that kind of understanding without seeing the larger reality as well. That can be an incredibly challenging place to be. So it's about us being quantum as well as us experiencing this quantum reality. Our whole thought process is mirroring, creating, and at one with the whole cosmic journey itself and the DNA. And you mentioned photonic light, and that is what this is. It's photonic light coming into this galactic field and within the DNA, because the DNA structure and the galactic field from the perspective of the nine are one and the same place.
Wow, this is so exciting, Magenta. You know, because it just from the nine's point of view, it is just sort of speaking so much of the astrology. So it's validating for the astrology, and hopefully the astrology can put some validation on the nines. You know, again, that goes two ways. But it just gives such a sense of us stepping out of a crumbling old archaic world into whatever we want to create, made of love, made of peace, made of joy, and we're going to flow with that. And the more we can flow with these very high frequency incoming energies, the better this will work, that we don't have any resistance, that we really just set our frequency, which I'm always talking about in videos, set our frequency day by day. I am going to live in love. I'm going to live in joy. I'm going to live in peace. And you beam that out to the world. You broadcast that out. And that inevitably creates some kind of bounce back of that reality that you're putting out. It's just a frequency match. And so that makes it very simple, that we don't have to deal with 10,000 problems out there. It's all about everything cascading from your own frequency. You get that right, everything cascades from that in your reality and infects others with that same positivity.
Yes, absolutely. And it's lovely we can talk like this, because after we spoke last time, I had people saying to me there were certain things that they were struggling with that I was saying from the nine, but when they heard you come in with your perspective, it made so much more sense because they were seeing two perspectives, and people were saying the same vice versa.
Yeah.
So it's really nice that we're able to offer such different perspectives of the same truth that's occurring right now. And that's assisting people to look at both these paradigms, your paradigm and the nines, and actually create an expansion within themselves to be able to come up with their own understanding of what is going on galactically, what's going on with us, with humanity right now.
So exciting. So Magenta, do you now want to move on to talk about the eclipses that we're in right now? Because they're so
Yes. Yeah, so it's very, very much the same thing that I have said. It's all connected. So you asked about the effect of the eclipses. When you emailed me, you said, could we talk about the effect of the eclipses as the nines see them? You mentioned that this seems to be a major upgrade or portal for many of us. And you said it would be interesting to see how the nines see this, as in today, the solar eclipse, and also the one we have on May 5th. So I asked the nine, is this true that this is a major portal for many of us, taken from what you said in your email? And the nine said, it is a major opportunity for all incarnated on Earth, yet not all will take the opportunity. For those that do, indeed, this is that which could be referred to as a major portal.
Oh,
So
wow.
not everyone is going to go through this portal because they haven't taken the opportunity given to them. So going to the recent channeling as well, which talk about this, one of the things the nines said was, as you move through these initiations, there shall be beacons of light that present as the great tetragrammaton, the fourfold square of 2 plus 2, 2 feminine as light of the moon, 2 masculine as light of the sun, forming the double celestial Merkaba. They're talking about the eclipses. They're talking about the 2 solar eclipses and the 2 lunar eclipses. So I asked them, why the great tetragrammaton or double celestial Merkaba, wanting them to explain more. So they said, this is your universal square. It is the cosmic celestial geometry that brings balance to all within this energetic container, which includes your Earth and your humanity timeline. Tetragrammaton is living geometry, created by movements of the great giant spheres, the futuristic potentials of the Earth you live upon in your current now time nexus point, that which you know as other planets, with Jupiter very much in the forefront at this time. We speak here of the eclipses, for you shall see and know, with the hidden 5th eclipse. I know I've spoken to you about this. The hidden 5th eclipse, known as the shadow eclipse, seen only by the genius with the astrological mind. So I asked them, okay, the hidden 5th eclipse, seen only by the genius with the astrological mind, are you referring to the, to the eclipse today, the 20th of April? And they said, indeed, and this is this is funny, Pam. Indeed, and this is the reason for the divine timing in drawing you, our conduit, together, because as you know, I've cancelled our interview twice.
Because of your voice.
I had lost my voice because of laryngitis, so I had to cancel you twice. So obviously we were supposed to speak on the actual day of the eclipse, which neither of us knew. This is the reason for the divine timing in drawing you, our conduit, together with the speaker for planetary alignments. So that's you, who holds hands with Jupiter and Venus as one. So they are calling you the speaker for planetary alignments. And they're saying you hold hands with Jupiter and Venus as one.
Well,
I don't understand that.
They're the benefics, and when they come together, that can be a very fortunate, very propitious time of success and abundance. But Jupiter as a planet is about a bigger future vision. It's about higher consciousness. It's about expansion of our consciousness. It's also about long distance travel. So this is connecting out to the galaxy as well. But the two, Venus and Jupiter, very much known as the benefics, the beneficial planets. So when they come together, it's particularly powerful. Wow.
So that's you. You hold hands with that, is what they're saying. For together, that's us, you and me, for together you shall assist others to see, for all that do listen, hold the genius patterning of mind we speak of. So everyone listening to this holds that genius patterning. They wouldn't be drawn to listen to us if they did not. The astrological knowings are the knowings of the DNA and crystalline simultaneous time. So even if people don't understand astrology or don't understand what the nine are saying, they hold it within them. They'll have their own model to be able to discuss this or to perceive this or to decode this. So it's the knowings of crystalline simultaneous time, all connected to the eclipses. They went on to say, together this fivefold eclipse portal, so they're talking about fivefold eclipse portal, a portal of 5 eclipses, 4 seen as the tetragrammaton and 1 unseen. Together they move into place as one and unify as the 5-pointed star of Adam Kadmon, evolving through and presented within 6th dimensional geometry as the celestial Merkaba or Star of David. And then they said tetragrammaton, Adam Cadmon template, celestial Merkaba, Star of David, 4th, 5th, and 6th dimensions unified. So I asked them, are you saying that the tetragrammaton is 3D, the 3rd dimension, the Adam Cadmon template 5-pointed star or pentagram is the 4th dimension, and the celestial Merkaba Star of David is the 5th dimension? And they replied, not so simplified. These are symbolic for the geometries of dimensional states and seen as one, stand for unification of dimensions within the true presentation of a non-dimensional structure. Only flux and momentum of 0 point where thought manifests as blueprint or pattern and thus matter. So this is so very pivotal for these eclipses. What they're saying is there are no dimensions in the true reality. Yeah. Dimensions are presented for us to be able to decode reality. What exists is flux and momentum. This quantum light, this quantum filaments of light, where thought manifests as blueprint or pattern and thus matter. This is your time sequentiality, crystalline time, or simultaneous time as threefold trinity spiral or vertical trifurcation, assisting you with vertical, direct, as accelerated or Stargate ascension as phase-locked memory, released into the time matrix through the epiphanies, discoveries, and knowings of calculus within your humanity timeline. I don't understand the calculus reference, I'm afraid, but epiphanies, discoveries, and knowing. So every time you have an epiphany, a realization, every time you think, aha, I get it, you are creating this structure within you. The eclipses, they tell me, when they talk about this, the eclipse patternings are drawing you into this memory. So the opportunity you're being offered through this eclipse portal, this 5-fold eclipse portal, is the opportunity for memory because of the photonic light that's streaming in. Because what they're saying is each eclipse that's happening this year, and it's actually going into the one in the first one, I believe, in 2024, are all in the same place. Each eclipse is the same place and the same time. So if we just look at the one today and the one on May the 5th, when you're in your today, 20th of April, and then you get to the 5th of May, when it comes to time, you're in the same space. In the true time, you're in the same date. So it's like we're in one time all the time. Every day is one time. But there are certain moments that are holding a higher awareness and a closer frequency of that non-linear time. That's the eclipses. And full moons are in a certain way as well, but especially this one today. This 20th of April one is kind of kicking it all off. Yeah. And this is connected to this threefold spiral of time that started on the March 21st, March 22nd, and is in these 3 years. It's kicking off the awareness. And when we have the awareness of what all this means, space and time through eclipses and through this journey, ascension, when we have the awareness, we create it. We're the ones that are placing our thought into creating this infinite timeline, which is into new Earth. And the more we do that, the less those that want the opposite, the control structure, can possibly manifest what they want, as I said earlier.
And also because we're operating from a higher frequency, that always dictates what will prevail. Because
absolutely,
the lower frequency vibrate can't exist in that same space. So, but it's so interesting because I've described this astrologically, this particular period, as the ignition point. The ignition point for big social political restructuring, but also ignition point for our evolution as well that we're stepping into. But it's so interesting hearing that, because it's so reinforcing the Saturn in Pisces for the next 3 years about this dissolution of our sense of 3D reality and time, because it sounds like we are going to move into a kind of morph of everything happening now. Now is the only thing that exists. There is
That's it.
nothing else but now. And what that's going to do to, astrology with all of our pinpoint timings, I have absolutely no idea. And I can retire then, but it's just that everything, it's just everything is now. There is nothing
Okay.
now.
So I think what you've just said references what the nine have said here. Stargate Ascension as phase-locked memory released into the time matrix through the epiphanies, discoveries, and knowings of calculus within your humanity timeline. Now, you're just saying about pinpointing the astrology. What's it going to do to it? I'll have to retire. No, I think that's the calculus they're talking about. It just means, I feel, that there needs to be more calculations, maybe in a more quantum way.
Right.
You're still able to pinpoint the quantum from the 3D structure that you've been used to, and Pam, it will just flow.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, I'm
they're
sure.
saying to me, giving you this title of oh, what do they call you? Going back now, the decoder of reality. I'll come back to that later. I've written down what they call you. So you have that. You are that. Yeah, they went on to say this is your threefold, three-phase journey through time in the physical linear expression. So we're going through this geometry, through this portal with these eclipses in physical reality. You've passed the tetragrammatons. That was the last 3 years in the way that they're explaining it. Or indeed, the presentation may be best explained by saying, you have crossed the Rubicon. And I think that ties into what you're saying is the ignition point. You've crossed the Rubicon. Now that I did Google that phrase, and it means, there's this thing that you would never cross, or you would only cross at a certain point, and once you've crossed it, everything changes.
Yeah, you can't go back.
You can't go back. So you're saying it's an ignition point. Well, if you think of your car, turn your car on. Once the car's started, you're going to drive. You're not going to turn it off, are you? And mess up your battery or whatever.
So does that apply to all of humanity, Magenta?
Right. So what the nine is saying is it applies to Earth and humanity. The opportunity for this is there for all, but they must hold the receptivity of it and get into that cohesive thought process to experience this in a blissful, joyful way. Yes, they're going through it, but it will be challenging, difficult, and rather than coming into a realization of cohesive quantum form, going into this expanded, well, what the nine call genius patterning, and really being able to hold multiple concepts in your mind at once for the first time in your life, and the freedom that gives you in your thought process and in the life that you're creating for yourself. In 3D, this is a struggle. This is like insanity. So yes, it's happening to them, but it's a completely different experience, which is why the minute they shift, even if it's in one area, be it politics, finance, health, education, creativity, the minute they start to shift, this can then start to open up for them, and there will be someone there for them when they do make that shift. We certainly hope anyway, though there are unfortunately those who can't go with this. And if they're clinging on to the old way and thinking, I don't like these changes, I can't bear the way the world looks now, everything is destroyed, everything has crumbled, I can't bear this reality, because they can't make sense of it at all, then that's a dark place to be. Dark night of the soul or whatever. But dark night of the soul leads you to the light at the end of that journey. These individuals, there may be some that simply can't go with this. So if we know anyone in that situation, we can help them. But the problem is, you can't start helping them or teaching them or telling them this stuff until they ask for it. If you try to tell them, then they haven't had the epiphany. If you say this is true and this is true and this is true, if they haven't had the epiphany, they will look at you and just think, you need help, you're insane. and they will be worried about you and want to help you. That's how it goes. They will want to help you and get cross and tell you to go and see a doctor or whatever. But when they've had an epiphany, then you can come in and help. So it's a fine line when it comes to helping others. So they went on to say, you are now moved from the tetragrammaton, fourfold square of the heavens. So that's interesting, because you said somebody called this a heaven's cross. They're calling it a heaven's square on this particular piece of channeling, into phase 2, which is the Adam Kadmon template. This is the crystalline expression of the 12 strand into 144 DNA strand light body, the preparation for the 5D and above Merkaba vehicle. So we're in 5D preparation, which is higher fourth dimension as a collective. Even if we think 5D or beyond, the collective is in this higher 4D state using the model the 9 use. Expressed as a fourth dimensional pre-matter template through higher 4D reality as preparation for 5D, the fifth dimension, hence aligning with the new Earth template. This is you standing as the architect or builder race for the new epoch. So the old epoch, not old, but previous Atlantis, previous to that Lemuria, now the one we're in now, I'm not sure what the name of this one is, there will be another one, and we're building it now with this thought process. We're not just building new Earth as in a new way of living in the third dimension. We're building a new epoch, which does take the actual epoch itself, and the formation of it takes a long, long time. I don't know how long, but that's part of another grander cycle. But we're building it now. And when we get to the new epoch, those people, which will have a much higher awareness, pre-incarnate memory in place, all of those things, they'll look back and remember and know us and honor us as their ancestors, and they will know what we have done. That's where they are.
I've often referred to us as the pioneers, the builders, the ground crew of New Earth, and it's so interesting that the 9 have validated that, because that's exactly what we're creating with our thoughts and our emotions and our frequency right now.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. So this is you standing as the architect or builder race for the new epoch, and you do this through your minds and hearts and emotions as one.
Yeah. Yeah.
The eclipse patternings draw you into this memory. The opportunity is for memory. Your eclipse today on the 20th of April is connected with the next and the next and the next, creating one time, one moment. They then went on to go through the eclipses. So April 20th, then the 5th of May or the 6th of May, 14th of October, and then 28th of October. Have I got that right?
Yep.
Okay, so all of these each have a 3-day window. That doesn't mean that the energy's only there for 3 days. The energy's there for like the whole year and into 2024 and potentially beyond that. I'm not sure. But what I mean is that if you look at April 20th, then that energy is really there on the 19th, the 20th, and the 21st. If you look at May 5th, it's there on the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th. Same with October, 14th, and the 28th. Each within a 3-day window are the same time. So when you get from today to May 5th, you are in the same time. And I know that's hard to get your head around. And again, that's why April and May is going to be very powerful for this change and this revelation. And then it will flow and we'll be integrating everything. And then there'll be this big surge again in October with these 2 eclipses on that end of the year. And they said, as you know this, as in knowing that this is the same time, as you know this and as you feel this and as you experience this, you have to literally think, you know what? It is the same day as the 20th of April. Now we're in the 5th of May. It is the same day, and feel the similarity of the energy of that day. And we won't know what that feels like till we get to the 5th of May. So this is the first time, it's always been this way, but this is the first time we have the receptivity within our fields to feel it, because it's been blocked before, and that's a whole other subject. As you know this, as you feel this, as you experience this, you become aware of crystalline time, simultaneous time, and thus you do create it. So when you're aware of something, you create it. Each with the genius mind that doth listen now to your creational expressions, with the one who holds hands with Jupiter and Venus as one, that's you, she who is the speaker for planetary alignments, yes, that's you. As you do but merge in your creational discourse, so that's you and me, that which is melded betwixt you, that's you and me and what we're creating, is given to those that join your ceremonial circle. So we're in a ceremonial circle, you and I right now, and they thus do create crystalline time, simultaneous time, through their knowing and awareness of the 4 sections of time in question as the same space, same place, and same date. This is the Einstein-Rosen bridge, not as space-time or time-space bending, but as oscillating vibratory field fabric that you know as plasma, that is consciousness itself. So what they're meaning is, when you look at a wormhole in space, you can look at one piece of time and another piece of time, and like a piece of paper, bend them together, and then you get a stargate or a wormhole. So that's all true, but it is a metaphor. But what they're saying is that you can raise your awareness beyond that metaphor to see one space as an oscillating vibratory field fabric with another space that's oscillating vibratory field fabric. And you are aware of this as being plasma and consciousness itself. So each eclipse is this oscillating vibratory field fabric. So on the higher level, it's there all the time. Every single day is this. We know this intellectually, but with these eclipses, we can actually experience this experientially through our feelings and emotions. So we're being given the opportunity to experience this simultaneous time, this crystalline time, in linear reality. As your thought structure through epiphany, understanding, inner standing, knowing and awareness begins to oscillate at the same frequency as the plasmic fabric itself, so your awareness begins to oscillate. Not only do you hold awareness of the eclipse portal and merge with it, and indeed create it, you know that you are it. You are the eclipse portal. You are at one with it because it's consciousness. It's the presentation of consciousness in linear time through celestial movements. But it is us.
So
for each. Sorry,
yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Magenta. Sorry.
I write far too much when I know I'm going to talk to you. I think, right, I'm just.
No, it's amazing. It's all amazing. Sort of blowing my mind, blowing lots of fuses. But you know, it's almost that, you know, if we go back to this whole hermetic principle, hermetic philosophy of in the macrocosm and the microcosm, what is outer is inner.
Yes.
Could it be that that all of the cosmos is actually encapsulated within our own consciousness? It's just a different
Yes.
presentation, if you like. It's inner and
Yes.
it's identical, because
Yes.
if I'm looking at a birth chart, I'm also simultaneously looking at that person's psyche.
You are.
It's identical.
Yes, it is.
And you know, we explain it by out there because it's easier as humanity for us to grasp, but it's actually in here.
Yes. Yes.
And that starts to get, you know, really kind of mind bending and falls out of
your mind bending.
So, you know, so everything is within us. And, you know, in the ancient
Yes.
Vedas, the ancient traditions, they often say there is only you here. There is nobody else in this reality.
That's it.
And that's really, because you can poke your friend sitting next to you and she seems pretty out, poke the coffee table, but you know, is that the case, that there is only us here and we're creating all of it in our reality? Because that's really
100%. Yes, it's absolutely the case. And the way to deal with this, because it is a mind-bending concept and it can send you a little bit sort of nuts. The way to deal with this is to hold 2 thoughts simultaneously. So once you reach the epiphany of there's only me here, there's only one of us here, there's only me here, simultaneously hold the awareness of there's 7.5 billion of us here, and this girl sitting next to me is a completely independent person to me. Ground yourself back into 3D reality while you experience this higher epiphany of multiple quantum dimensional awareness. Because if you hold that epiphany on your own without grounding it down, you can move into ungrounded states like, oh my goodness, there's only me. People don't exist. Oh, they're non-player characters, which has its base in truth. But when you try to interpret what non-player character means in a 3D reality, you come out with nonsense, as in that person who I just bumped into in Tesco is an NPC. They have no consciousness. I mean, that's true on the higher level from your reality, because you're only going to see them for 2 minutes in Tesco and never see them again. But you must also be aware that they are also consciousness experiencing itself in a human journey, and they're you in another reality. So a lot of these concepts within the truth community are all based on truth, but they've been taken down to linear third dimensional interpretation, and then they lose their truth, they lose their reality, and they become very distorted and end up being false, really, from the 3D perspective. So if we can hold that 3D reality, there's only me here, there's only one of us here, but there are also 7 billion, and that in itself will help you with expansion, because you're holding what would be to a 3D person, it's known as cognitive dissonance. When you open up to 4D, higher 4D, 5D, that's not cognitive dissonance anymore. That's multidimensional thought. Yeah. That's holding two different thoughts at the same time. And then you can hold 3, which is the trinity. Then you can hold more than 3, which we're not quite there yet. And then eventually we hold omnipresence, which is holding the knowing of everything. And when it comes to that, we're able to do that, but we have to tune in on different areas of that omnipresence. So you're saying that the entire structure of the multiverse, the infinite multiverse, is all within us. If you imagine that you're taking the multiverse all in and folding it into a little piece of paper and folding it up into a tiny piece of paper and putting it inside us, that is the DNA structure, and that is what you were born with. That's what every baby is born with inside them, the knowing of the entire universe. When someone is said to be channeling, and they may perceive it as speaking to angels or a guide or whatever, what they're doing is unwrapping that little piece of paper. That's it. That's it. Doesn't matter whether you call it channeling or downloads or all the arguments out there. Oh, that person's not channeling. They're getting simultaneous downloads, or this person's doing this particular type of thing, or it's not channeling, it's this, it's that. It doesn't matter what name you give it, it's all the same thing. It's your memory. And these eclipses this year create a portal, giving you the opportunity for that memory. When you take that opportunity, you will see all these different areas of physical reality begin to shift and change. So you've got the political structure, the financial structure, education, health, the religious and spiritual, which is really big as well within this, the scientific, technology, all of this is starting to change and move through, at first, a bifurcation. And that's very much in the forefront right now, because April 20th eclipse today, the 9 are calling a double eclipse or a shadow eclipse, or 2 in 1. Yep. So you have a real light shone on the bifurcation of all of these structures. And what that does is, when it comes to a bifurcation, you have a choice between, say, A and B. You can stand in the middle in neutrality, which is very much the spiritual place to take. Now that works if A is really, really good and may have some bad bits too, and B is really, really good and may have some bad bits too. You can stand on the fence in neutrality and not take sides with either. That is not what this bifurcation is. That's not what this eclipse today is shining a light on. It's shining a light on the bifurcation where this is, well, I won't use the word good, but this is the new earth. This is positive. This is about creation and sustainability and love and connection and unity. And this one here is about control, degradation, darkness, you know, and it's the inversion of that on all of these different systems.
So
So
this is
your
the major choice
opportunity,
point. This is the major choice point
it's a
right
choice
now.
point, and we've had this choice point coming in since the first part of this triple vertical spiral. 2020, March
Yes,
21st, day one of the
absolutely.
new world. We had a choice point there. We're now continuing with this choice point in different ways. We are choosing which side of the bifurcation we want to be on.
Yeah.
New Earth or old Earth, you know, freedom or control. It boils down to that. And you can still find neutrality within your heart in multiple different scenarios. But when it comes to the bifurcation of reality within a system, you need to choose which side you are on. That doesn't mean you've moved away from neutrality. You choose the side within neutrality. And that, again, is a multiple thought process. You are taking two thought processes as one. I am in neutrality and I have also chosen a side. And you do both. If you
And
do one or the
ultimately,
other, it's not going to work.
it's so interesting because ultimately I do think we'll come back to unity consciousness, but there's going to be a temporary period where we put our focus on fear or love. And it seems to me, and I don't know if you'd agree with this, Magenta, that you know, we had the choice point in March 2020. We've got another major choice point right now in this eclipse season, but it's like that bifurcation, the fork in the road is getting wider and wider. So it's like two speeding trains that have left a station, and it becomes harder and harder to jump from one train to the other. You know, you commit to one train and one fork in the road or the other, and eventually we will all meet back in unity consciousness. I don't know when that's going to be, but in this period of time, that is what's actually happening. Would you
Yes,
share?
100%. That's a really, really good way of explaining it. And I would go one step further with your metaphor, which is really good. And to say that when you're on the train, if you choose the train that is old Earth, the way things already are, the control structure that you may or may not be aware of, that's one train. You are jumping on one train and you're shooting off down a mono track. And it's much harder to jump over to this train, just as you say. But this train is actually a system of loads and loads of trains. There's tons of trains and you're on all of them. So one is
It's
mono
multi-dimensional.
and one is multi-dimensional. And well, if you use the analogy of the old stereo systems we had, record players back in the 80s, we'd have had a mono and a stereo. So mono you'd hear the record playing in this really sort of basic tone. Or, you know, when stereo came out, I don't know if you remember, I'm really showing my age here, but when stereo came out, you're like, wow, you've got speakers and you can hear all the different layers to the music. That is what it's like. Yeah.
So exciting. And Magenta, I'm very well. We've gone over the hour. Your voice has held really well. Is there anything really big you'd like to say before we close and preserve your voice? You've done brilliantly.
Let me just have a look at these notes. I've spoken about it all being the same time. They did say the words know thyself, thus turn inwards and become truth as you realize the true oneness you hold with plasmic consciousness, not only as intellectual theory, but as experiential physical reality. So know thyself becomes our experience beyond intellectual understanding. And that's the opportunity for the eclipses. I also asked them, if this eclipse portal is an opportunity for Stargate ascension, so that's accelerated ascension, vertical ascension, direct ascension, which in previous years hasn't been available due to blocks with that, but now it is, since the person you interviewed that said about the Heaven's Cross, and when Amanda Lawrence said about this opening up, it's the same thing. The opportunity is now there. And I said, are you saying ascension itself is noticeably taking place in this next 3 years from now to 2026? I asked them that. Is ascension taking place? So if I just go through what they said there, and we can leave it at that, because I think this is really important. And again, so connected to the eclipses. They replied, not in such basic translation. The 3-year time period you are in with the Eclipse Portal for the next 3 years, not only for the eclipses of 2023, are part of the fabric of the grand cycle. The portal itself is the event horizon, the crossing of the Rubicon, that is taking place within this 0-point field, no time space. That's what we're in now. From the ending of the Mayan long count calendar, so that was in 2012, to the beginning again of the new count, which is the quantum crystalline time matrix set within the awakening and activated fabric of the DNA sequencing within organic humanity. So we're creating the new counting system. The Mayan long count ended in 2012. That's why it's so pivotal, because this is a no time period. The long count has ended. It's just a counting system, but we're beginning the new one within our DNA. And they said within the aware, conscious, genius mind linked to the DNA sequencing, broadcasting of the quantum plasmic light, which is what you said about broadcasting your light, your signal, broadcasting that light within then the crossing of the Rubicon cannot be achieved. Sorry, what are they saying? Within the aware, conscious, genius mind linked to the DNA sequencing, broadcasting of the quantum plasmic light within then the crossing of the Rubicon cannot be achieved, and the planetary ascension cannot create enough momentum to propel your Earth ship into the fifth dimensional space, time, and time space. Therefore, the unity betwixt genius mind within aware star-seeded humanity and the knowing of and unity with the plasmic consciousness must be there. Hence the eclipse portal as opportunity for this manifestation. So what they're saying is, if you don't have the awareness and the understanding of what is going on, if you aren't experiencing this, even if you aren't aware intellectually, if you aren't going through this experience, then you aren't creating the momentum for this creation of new Earth. This needs to be taken into an awareness, whether it's a conversation between you and me, or whether it's someone reading a book, or whether it's their own meditation, right across the world. When that happens, then that does create this. So that answers your question.
Is that collective or individual, Magenta?
Well, it's both. It's incredibly individual, because you know that you are the only one here, so it's only you, so it has to be individual because you're the one doing it. It's all on you. And then you take the other perspective. We're a collective, we're a team, we can't do this on our own, we need others. Both of those are true, so you take it from that point of view. So but yeah, I'm gonna have to go through that again because I'm not fully processing it myself. And this happens with the channeling. It takes me a while to process it myself.
Well, it's quite dense and metaphorical, isn't it? You know, there's an awful lot of layering there. You know, there's so much richness and meaning in every word, really. So I think you've done just phenomenally well in decoding it. And it's so exciting because there are just so many echoes of where we are now with the astrology. And that's why it's great to talk to you. And I think people will really be boosted by this because we're in such an accelerated time, and that will give people confidence that and momentum that we can, you know, build this energetic wave of a new Earth that is so much more loving than we've ever experienced in our lifetime, and maybe many lifetimes, and that's what's so fabulous about it. So, and that's why really this discussion has been so valuable, I think. So, you know, thank you for your time, thank you for your voice, thank you for your insight and inspiration. I've really enjoyed it. It's been terrific. So thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you for asking me to come back and chat with you. It's been amazing, and I hope people have enjoyed listening to us talk and have, you know, entered into that sacred circle and taken the energy with themselves. And it is really exciting. You know, it can be challenging, and it's nice to be able to go back to listening to this, to what we're saying, and to take that as inspiration and find the knowing, because it isn't easy to stay in that knowing all the time when you're going through everyday life. It's important to constantly come back to that and find that, and always think, you know, this is what I am here for. Yeah. And everyone listening to this is what you came here for. Yeah. And we're doing it. You know, we're doing it. And it is an exciting time.
And we're doing
we've
it
got lots
ourselves, you know, we're doing it ourselves. There's no, you know,
doing it
Deus Ex
ourselves.
Machina from heaven who's going to come and say, you know, we as humanity collectively are
Yes,
doing this. And that's just thrilling because that
it
gives
is.
us, you know, more momentum with every moment. So yeah, God bless you, Magenta. That was great. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you. God bless you too, Pam.
Lots of love. Have a lovely evening and lots of lemon and honey.
Yes, yes, I've got some right here in my lovely fairy mug. Thank you.
Okay. Lots of love. Bye.
Bye.